Above Earth, the space shuttle drifts away. The telescope remains behind. Its solar panels unfold, its antennas extend. Against the darkness of space, Hubble floats alone, exactly where it was designed to be. For years, this moment had been the destination. The launch worked. The deployment worked. The telescope survived the journey into orbit. News cameras captured the achievement. Engineers watched telemetry stream across their screens. Humanity had placed its most ambitious eye above the atmosphere that blurred every ground-based view of the universe. The difficult part appeared to be over. Only one thing remained. Hubble had to open its eye. The expectation was simple. Somewhere beyond Earth, stars, galaxies, and nebulae were waiting. Hubble's first observations would reveal what this new telescope could finally see, now that it was free from clouds, weather, and atmospheric distortion. The observatory turned toward its targets. Light entered the telescope. The first images began arriving. And something looked wrong. Bright objects appeared surrounded by soft halos. Stars that should have been sharp points seemed swollen and fuzzy. The images were recognizable, but they were not what anyone had expected from the most advanced telescope ever built. The blur was visible, yet it was not immediately alarming. These were early observations. Hubble had only recently arrived in orbit. Complex instruments often required adjustment after launch. Focus settings could be refined. Calibration procedures still remained. The explanation felt reasonable because it matched what people were seeing. The telescope worked. It simply did not appear fully tuned. So attention turned toward focus. Commands traveled upward from Earth. Observations continued. Engineers compared images, adjusted settings, and waited for improvement. The next pictures arrived. The halos remained. Stars still refused to become points. The telescope continued collecting light exactly as intended, yet every image carried the same visual signature. Around bright objects appeared a faint, stubborn glow that should not have been there. The explanation still survived. Barely. Perhaps the correct focus had not yet been found. Perhaps another calibration step remained. Nothing visible yet demanded a more serious conclusion. But confidence had changed. The launch celebration was beginning to give way to observation. And observation was beginning to create doubt. More images arrived. Different targets. Different regions of the sky. The same result. Again and again, stars that should have looked like tiny pinpricks appeared wrapped inside fuzzy rings. The visual symptom became familiar. Not because it was expected, because it would not leave. Each new observation increased the pressure. Hubble was already hundreds of miles above Earth. Nobody could wheel it into a laboratory. Nobody could remove a panel and look inside. The telescope could only reveal itself through the images it produced. And those images kept telling the same story. Something was wrong. Attention began shifting toward the instruments themselves. If one camera were malfunctioning, the explanation would remain manageable. A faulty detector could distort images, electronics could introduce errors, individual components could fail. That possibility still fit the evidence. Then another comparison arrived. A different imaging system looked at the same sky. The distortion appeared again. The halos matched. The blur matched. The pattern remained. Suddenly, the dominant explanation began to collapse. If one camera were defective, another should have seen something different. Instead, multiple instruments were reporting the same reality. The contradiction was impossible to ignore. The cameras were agreeing with each other, which meant they were probably not creating the defect. They were recording it. The flaw existed before any image reached the cameras. The audience watching from Earth could not see inside the telescope. Neither could the engineers. But the search area had become much smaller. Every instrument depended on the same optical system. Every instrument depended on the same mirror. The telescope that had reached orbit successfully was now pointing suspicion toward the one component nobody wanted to suspect. Its primary mirror. The investigation moved deeper. Light paths were analyzed. Image patterns were compared. Optical models were tested against what Hubble was actually seeing. A picture slowly emerged. Not a photograph. A geometric reality. The mirror's shape appeared slightly wrong. Not dramatically wrong. Not visibly damaged. Wrong in a way measured in fractions of a human finger. Yet telescopes do not operate on ordinary scales. Tiny deviations become enormous consequences when light travels across a precisely designed optical system. The analysis revealed that incoming light was not converging exactly where it should. Instead of meeting at a single perfect focus, portions of the light spread outward. The result was already familiar. The halos. The blur. The stars that refused to become points. The recurring image that had followed every stage of the investigation was no longer merely a symptom. It was evidence. The telescope had not developed the flaw in orbit. It had carried the flaw into orbit. Years earlier, during manufacturing, a testing device used to verify the mirror's shape had been assembled incorrectly. The error was extraordinarily small, roughly 1.3 millimeters in spacing. Small enough to escape detection. Large enough to reshape the future of the mission. The mirror was polished according to measurements that appeared correct. The measurements were wrong. And because they appeared correct, the mirror passed through development, testing, integration, launch preparation, and deployment. The defect survived every stage. Only after Hubble began doing the thing it was built to do did the flaw finally become visible. The telescope discovered its own mistake by trying to see. Now the opening images meant something entirely different. The blurred stars were no longer temporary annoyances of early checkout procedures. They were the first direct evidence of a hidden error that had traveled from Earth into space. The launch had never removed the uncertainty. It had exposed it. Return to that image of Hubble floating above Earth. So the panels are open. The telescope appears complete. At the time, it looked like the ending of a story. A triumph suspended against the blackness of space. Yet the flaw was already there. Hidden inside the mirror, waiting for starlight to reveal it. The mission's greatest achievement had not completed the journey. It had merely carried an unseen defect to the one place where it could finally be discovered. And when Hubble opened its eye for the first time, the universe answered with a blur.